We're going to talk about cultural transformation from a Centenary company into a top employer. As we approach the final learning segment of day one, we turn our focus to one of the most complex yet most rewarding challenges that any HR leader can take on: cultural transformation. Transforming culture is not about changing posters, slogans, or presentations. It's about redefining beliefs, behaviors, values, habits, and the emotional DNA of an organization. Please join me in welcoming the HR Director of the Southern European, this sounds really big, the cluster. I've never heard anybody oversee a cluster. That's like something out of a space movie, so you must be doing some really incredible things. And you are the HR Director of the Southern European Cluster at Hero Group. Everybody give a round of applause for Mr. Juan Tinoco.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Still with energy? Yeah? You already heard the very good news. I am the last obstacle between you and the end of the session. So I'm going to I'll try to be brief. Okay, and for this reason, I thought that rather than going into too much detail on technical HR stuff, it was better to tell you a story. It's a story of transformation, and it's a story of how HR can really play a pivotal role in changing our organizations today. The story begins with a Swiss family in 1886, so quite a lot of years ago. They created a company in a little town called Lenzburg. This is 30 minutes away from Zurich in the German part of Switzerland. And they started putting vegetables and fruits in cans and selling them, and also producing jams. With the years, they started going to different countries, and they ended up in 1922, so 4 years ago. They ended up in Murcia, little town province in the south of Spain, southeast. And they fell in love with the quality of the product, with the land, with the people there, and they decided to create or to found Hero Spain. The company is called Hero, after the names of the two founders, and we know it today as Hero. So this family started setting some subsidiaries in different countries, and also acquiring, doing M&As of different companies that were close to their philosophy in terms of the quality of the product and the philosophy of the business. So they started throughout more than 100 years, getting some brands, getting some companies, but somehow they let operate the business in an isolated way. Okay, so this is somehow the opposite to what many other companies are doing. Usually what you do is you set up as a headquarter, and what you do is when you go to open a market, you take everything there, systems, processes, people, you go to the market, replicate, and do that. They did the opposite. They said, okay, I open a subsidiary there, you operate. I acquire one brand here, one company in this country, you operate. They were just acting for almost 100 years as a hedge fund or something like that, right? Just getting the financial resource finally per year. So then, before pandemic, they did an exercise. This is a family-owned company, and they did a strategic exercise where they saw that if they wanted to continue 100 more years, it was impossible to keep operating the same way. So then they said, look, we have local autonomous organizations. We operate in an isolated way. We have a wide range of portfolio. Each country operates, depending on the consumer needs, etc. We don't have too many synergies. And we operate in traditional food categories. Okay, so these traditional ones were jams and baby food. Yeah, little jars for the babies. And what we need to do, if we want to continue, if we want to survive, we need to transform our business. Transform, becoming a true global matrix organization where we can focus not just on volume but on profit. We need to leverage our synergies. We need to leverage all our manufacturing opportunities, and even maybe not even manufacture ourselves, but buy products to other people so that we can adapt to consumers. And this way, we would add different categories You cannot see that there with the chairs, but it's going into snacking. Today's consumer trends are not so much into traditional food categories, but going into snacking. Yeah, as we can all see. Good. So then it's very good. Then now we have 21, 22 markets, and we need to become a global multinational rather than this type of company. So we're going to hire some people, some executives who are used to working in matrix organizations, and let's make this journey. And this is somehow the mandate that I had when I joined the company 5 years ago. They said, okay, we need to change the culture. Okay, change the culture. How do we do that? Where are we coming from? We had a culture that was truly hierarchical, a culture where people just followed orders. It was more based on tasks, on knowledge. So the boss is the person who really knows what needs to be done, and the team operates after that. And we had lack of ownership and accountability. What do we need to become? We need to become an organization that is truly matrix, where we have people who are driven by purpose, not by job description. We need people who are transparent, who are accountable, and who are autonomous. So this is a mandate, yeah? And then it's the question is, how do we really do this? As HR people, for me the challenge is think yourselves, if you get this challenge in your company, become a truly matrix organization coming from a traditional hierarchical departments structure. Yeah? I tell you what I did, and I tell you how I failed in the beginning. I think any success story starts without failure. And the way I started was in my very first presentation to the board, to the owners, and to the executive, so to the board of directors and the executive board, including the family owners. And I did a presentation on how we should do the change following the McKinsey 7S star. This model is pretty well known by HR people. And I started, going to all the elements. We're going to touch these that we already started with different initiatives. And honestly, I failed. They ended up saying, wow, very good, very detailed, etc. But I felt there was something wrong there. What I felt was something wrong was it was too complex. So first learning that I got from this experience is we need to be translators. HR needs to be a translator between the business needs and what HR really needs to do as leaders. So we cannot just copy-paste what we in HR talk with our old terminology or consultancy. We need to talk the business language. And this was too complex for the owners, for the executive board, and also for employees. So after this failure, I started doing some kind of research. I like checking, of course, HRCA papers. I follow as well Bersin, George Bersin, and Gartner. Yeah, usually these are the three sources I most follow. So this is from Gartner. You cannot see that from there. And Gartner, years ago, they were already starting to talk about agile. So they say that redesigns that deploy incremental changes are 60% more likely to succeed. And this was something that was resonating in my mind in terms of how changes really happen in organizations. And how changes really happen is you can plan whatever, but in the end it's slowly, initiative by initiative. You need to have a master plan, but things don't go for a big deployment. This is a chart I use in, I have the opportunity to be a professor in different HR masters, MBAs. And I use this chart, which is the most simple one, but very clear in explaining people what is really agile. What is really agile is you start doing changes, iterating, reiterating, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and building the change, accompanying the employees at the same time with a mindset change, rather than a really big transformation at the time. This is what really matters. Then we said, okay, now we need to change the organization. Again, let's focus. So what would we do as HR? First step, we usually say, okay, we need to accompany a business strategy. So executive board, CEO, tell me what is the strategy. I need to understand. I speak the language of the business, so tell me. Then we reset the structure. We take the org charts. So how many of you from HR use the organizational chart as main tool for organizational design. Yeah? I mean, this is the first thing I open my email and the org chart. This is what I do every day, to have just everything at a look. And then we redesign the work. What research says is this is not working. We're doing it the other way around. Of course, we need to start from business strategy, but we should then go to redesign work. And then org charts, the organizational structure, is just a consequence of how we want to work, how we want to operate according to a specific business strategy. So it was also a big boom in my head, like, okay, we need to reset. I really need to focus on, first is understand the business strategy, then redesign work, and then we will change the organization. So these other steps we somehow followed. Reset strategy. For that, we had go quickly here, but we have a new vision, which is become a leader in better snacking. Again, so we're following the trend of our consumers, which is snacking. We have a new vision, a new mission, which is delight consumers through honest goodness of nature. And then we have values, yeah, which I'm going to show you now. Message here also to all of us from HR. This exercise that is usually, lesson 1 or lesson 2 in a typical strategy MBA classroom or whatever, this is really, really important. This is really what drives the purpose of organizations. And I can tell you this has totally changed the way we operate. If we have one single vision as a company, one single mission, and then through all those isolated countries, the same culture, the same values, it's much more likely that we would go together. This is the best exercise I have seen in values. It was done before I arrived, right before I arrived. It was sponsored by the member of the family that is in the board of directors. He himself said, we need to have clear and very profound values that reflect not only what we are today, but what we want to become. And they did an exercise involving more than a third of all the employees in the company. With these 4 values, they reset the mindset of all the countries getting together in how we want to behave. Quick video on just speaking about the values. Let's see if we have the sound, if possible. Otherwise, it's okay. Just go through it. It's okay. It's fine. It's just a video that talks about the values, and I thought it was interesting to show the spirit. It's fine. We'll keep going. Then we go to the redesign work. This is where we really went into the typical traditional HR work. So here, also some of the charts I show, not just the people in MBAs, but also this was part of a workshop that was delivered to every single employee in our Southern European cluster so that they would identify or see the change or the mindset change we need. This is a chart from Jimmy Janlen already in 2016 that reflects, it really helps reflect what is the change from a hierarchical traditional organization where it goes on the top managers need the teams to work to deliver information so that they make better decisions, moving towards a really agile team-based organization where the leaders provide vision, provide guidance, and then it's with that information that the teams themselves go for the business needs. Yeah. There is also another different way to show it, and I really recommend this one. I don't know if you have the chance, have you ever known anybody from Spotify, yeah, the music company? Spotify is an amazing company with an amazing culture. There are 2 videos I really recommend to you. It's called Spotify Agile Culture. They produced them some years ago. 2 videos, 10 minutes, best material ever to understand how a company can turn into an agile culture. I told people in our company, we're not Spotify, We're not a technological company. We don't produce either software nor music, but we resemble a lot to the changes that they're doing. And they used to frame it in a different way. So they say there are organizations that, in terms of two dimensions, alignment and autonomy, they have low alignment and low autonomy, which is this is coming from traditional hierarchical organizations, yeah? Where people just follow orders. Then we have high alignment, but still low autonomy, where the leaders, and this is where we see the leadership change, leadership style change, leaders provide employees with vision, with information, yeah, with the purpose of what they have to do. Still, I tell you what you have to do, but I tell you why. Then we have low alignment and high autonomy cultures, which are more somehow entrepreneurs, where everybody does a lot of things, but makes a sense of not a lot of order there. And let's say the ideal state, where we have high alignment, a high autonomy, where the leaders, same as the pyramid before, the leaders show information, they guide people, they provide with purpose, and then it's the teams who are really on the job. They are the ones who really know how to do the job. Yeah? This means a total mindset change in leaders. Just think about the leaders in your organization. For almost 100 years, the leaders that were rewarded were here. Now we're telling them, from one day to the other, we need to become an agile organization. The leader we need to become is this one, who is not telling the others what they need to do, but is just facilitating the work and communicating and enabling and building capability. Totally different mindset. The journey we had to do is, these are the different countries at Hero Organization, and what we had to do is design our own journey to become an agile organization to the purpose of the company. Yeah? And how we had to do this, I also love this chart. It's an example of why many organizations fail in building agile culture, which is they think that train a team, build a Scrum team to deliver or to create something about marketing a new product, and then you say you're agile. That's not. It's just a practice. You need to have a holistic vision, a holistic approach, and start from culture. And this is the key outcome of every single company that really became agile. You need to start with culture, not with the practices. And this is the way we are trying to do it. How to do this? So how do we explain this to our employees? So what we saw from the other experience of the McKinsey topic was like, it cannot be too complex, and it has to be somehow building a framework where employees would identify all the different elements. So to build an agile culture, to change the culture, you need to start doing a lot of different initiatives. But if you start doing everything around without a structure, a basic structure, people get lost. This is what we learned. And this is why we used the framework of the naming or the brand Flex. That was a program for working from home in the pandemic that started, people understood that. And with that anchor, we started building all the others. So Hero Flex started from working from home policy to the new culture we want to have. Why? Because if we want to work from home, we need to have different mindset, we have to work by objectives, we need to have a purpose, etc., etc. So this is what we're doing at the moment. We built 3 different pillars. First pillar is corporate governance, talking about how we govern ourselves, how we manage ourselves. Second is about structure, winner structure. How do we structure ourselves? And third is the more typical HR1, culture and way of working, on how we work and behave. Yeah? We have to work on the marketing. Yeah? So it doesn't look too fancy. It's just a PowerPoint. This is what we use internally. And we're going to go a bit more into marketing and look and feel. In corporate governance, we include every single initiative, change, program that touches the topics of management and governance, corporate policies, compliance, EDI, labor relations, ESG, etc. In structure, we talk about organizational design, we talk about IT, we talk about agile, this is the ERP, so systems. And then in cultural way of working, it's where we tackle leadership, learning, values, working from home policy, employee experience, etc. Yeah? This is the framework, and this is how we start embracing the change and showing the people how everything we do is within this framework. Now we're working on making a bit more fancy. Honestly, this is something that is an improvement area, but I prefer to work in a not beautiful way, but impactful rather than beautiful and without content. So this is how we redesign work, and now we're going to reset structure. Reset structure here is just this chart that I'm going to show. Why? It's because it's impossible to show in just the 10 minutes we have how to deep dive into organizational design. What I can tell you is before I arrived, organizational charts took like 2 years to have a single change. Today, after I joined, I haven't had the same organizational chart every 2 months. Maybe it's a little change, maybe it's a big change, but not the same in every 2 months, which means that already our employees already have the feeling that change is a constant. Yeah? This is what we need to manage. And we are changing the entire organization. Why? Because it's the consequence of the change of working instead of the other way around. Gartner also tells us how to succeed from an HRBP in how to manage culture and transformation. So as we were saying, we have embed the culture in the employee workflows. We tackle, within all these situations, the different tensions. We're trying to do it. And then we have to measure progress. And here also we have made some advancements, and we will end here. I don't know, maybe it's a bit little, but what it says, the fourth top, it says collecting data to track. So the strategy is organization tech to improve culture, and the measure. First one is to collect data through surveys, okay, to see the tracking, to see the evolution. We will see one example here. Second is giving employees information about specific behaviors, and this is related to our values. The third one is equipping managers with training or resources to manage a culture on their teams. And the fourth one is about communication. Yeah? And I can tell you this also, I fully agree with this Gartner research, because it really shows a path to assembling and really profoundly implementing these initiatives. In terms of just some examples, and we're ending here, some examples of surveys. We started with an employee engagement survey, incredibly insightful. The first one, so sorry in Spanish, the blue one is about how important is each of the different employee experience elements or moments. And then the other one, the orange one, is about my feeling of how my company manages this moment. And there we can see where we have moments where the employees' expectations are very close to reality, like personal trait, or moments where it has a big difference. Of course, as in every company, compensation, but also training or the way we communicate exits. This is driven like the initial photo, the initial diagnosis, to see which are the different elements that we need to prioritize for quick wins. Then the other survey we took, and we are really, really proud of this, with this HeroFlex framework, we have achieved to become the first company within our group, international group, that is a top employer. As you know, top employer certifies organizations and policies. So we already got the one for 26, already 4 years in a row, and a recognition in a local Segos consultancy that talks about culture and transformation. So we're one of the best companies in the country for culture and transformation. So this is not just to say, hey, how cool we are, we got top employers. I can tell you that one of the learnings here as well was that it is more important for our current employees even than for our external potential candidates. Of course, it's very useful for talent acquisition, but it was even more important to our current employees who, after their whole life working in the same company and saying, why do we have to change? We have been our whole life working this way. This is a recognition, this is a direction, this is a reinforcement of the policies we're doing And people are understanding that this is the new way to work and that is recognized by the market. Then in terms of behavior, just to give you an example, so we have delivered training, and we have included this also in performance management. So giving examples of specific behaviors for each of all the values, so that our managers are able to see this is not just numerus clausus, it's just examples of different behaviors that you can have for performance management as well. And it's really helpful because it drives also good example for people management. Then about training, just a glimpse on we needed to reset the way we approach building skills in our people, so business, digitalization, leadership, and then compulsory, but we have specific ones. Now we have one specific for AI, etc. We need to be very quick in changing our capabilities. And the last thing I'm going to show you is about training. We also had a very good experience with what I call the sandwich effect to drive change. So to drive change in terms of how you have the people who are the examples, the reference. Of course, you need to have the top talent, so the top leaders pushing, but that's not enough. You also need to bring, on the bottom part of the sandwich, you also need to bring good examples, so all the new hires are a very important message to the people who are already working in the company, because they are the new type, the new skills that you want to have in the organization. So if you're somebody who is reluctant to change, you would see, okay, my bosses are changing, they're pushing me. Oh, the new people joining the company are different. Maybe I need to resemble that, but still I'm reluctant. And then it's when we take the change agents. Change agents is not me who are just 5 years in the company, a new director or a new hire. Change agents are those ones who have been in the company for already 10, 15, 20, 25 years. We have people who are retiring with 23 years after service, their whole professional life. These are the ones who are change agents. So we have identified the early adopters. We have identified the internal influencers, the ones who embrace change. We have trained them. We have talked to them so that they can come with us. And they are the examples for all the others who are reluctant. And then the last one, communication. We use this framework. So that's my boss talking about business. That's me talking about a HeroFlex in all the framework for communication, also including all types of news. And this is how we have shaped this transformation. So this story about the Swiss family that has totally changed the business is a story about how HR can understand the business, can talk the language of the business, and can shape and play a pivotal role, as I said, in transforming the culture. So thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.